let me announce it on my Discord real quick. Okay. Sorry that I'm looking right side, just my laptop is there, so. Okay, let me see if everything is good on my laptop is there, so. Yeah. By the way, do you want to have my Twitch link so you can follow up with the chat? Should I send you?
No, that's okay. We'll just leave it.
Okay. I will read out loud then the questions if anyone will ask. Okay. Perfect. Okay, let me see if everything is working. And then we can actually start. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me know if everything is good. There is no lag on the stream. You guys and girls can hear both of us. Hölgyek, urak, kérlek szépen tudassátok velünk, hogy minden működik, jó? És akkor utána elkezdjük, és tudtok kérdezni a végén. And yeah, like I'm always saying, you will be able to ask questions at the end of the interview, so keep that in mind. And let us know if we can start. Let us know, please let us know. I know it's early on my end, so probably a lot of folks will be lurking out here, but let me know. Please let me know if we can start. So we will start. Okay. Let me check my mic if it's... Can you hear me well, by the way? Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, let me know, please, ladies and gentlemen, that we can start. Let me know. And after that, I will check it myself as well, real quick. And okay. We can start? Okay, perfect. Are you down to start as well, Josh?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, so welcome everyone at the very new episode of my Dev Life show. I'm here today joined with Josh, who is the creator of the game called Junklands, and I'm very honored and very thankful that today you joined us for this episode. And yeah, like I'm always saying, let's start with a little bit of introduction. So please introduce yourself for us.
Yeah. My name is Josh Sacco. I'm the creative director and owner of Deadly Games.
Okay.
I've been working on Junkland for quite a few years now. It's still not ready. I've been working on games under Deadleaf for about 7 years now. So we've released something prior, but I'm usually just a solo dev, and I'll get people on here and there. But yeah, it's usually just a solo dev journey at the moment.
I see.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so my first real question would be how or what was your very first contact with video games as a player and then also as a developer?
Oh, so growing up, I had a Commodore 64, and it's like this very old keyboard that you just like plug into the TV. And I remember playing this game called Ford Apocalypse with my dad.
Okay.
And it's just this helicopter game, and it's just like, 8-bit graphics. You just go through, and so I can't even remember what age that was, but it was a very because that was that released before I was born, but I played it maybe 5 or 6, and then there was this little programming kind of compartment to there's another game we could sit and program on it. So that was my very first kind of entry into video games. So really young, and then just playing games on the computer, and then the PlayStation. But one game kind of just blew my world, and that was Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey.
Nice.
And that game was just you can have characters that are just from another universe, and it doesn't have to be it was just really unique to me. It was like a movie, but you played a game, and it was really hard, and it just opened up my world, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to make things like this, and that's kind of that what inspired me to go down this path.
I see. Was
Yeah.
it, by the way, to a very hard or at least a bit of hard situation for you to take the first step into like being a game dev, like start your journey as a game dev? How do you feel
Yeah,
about that?
so I first started in Game Maker. So I
Okay,
discovered something which was like not real programming, but like enough. So it's kind of like, oh, I can, draw my characters and stick them into like this little engine. And then so slowly over the years, I was just using Game Maker until like I hit a wall where I couldn't use it any longer. But yeah, over the years, I just kept going in Game Maker until I got enough knowledge.
I see.
Just made lots of unfinished games, and
Would you
yeah,
like
so
to
that's
go
how I got
back
my
to finish them, by the way? Sorry for interrupting you. Would you like to go back to finish them? What you have been
There's
talking
a
about?
few ideas where I was like, yeah, there's just I think when you're younger, your creativity is like unbound. Like there's just you think about things less, so you just make the craziest stuff. Like I had a space udder where like you could go each planet, you could go to the moon, it was like all cheese, and then you could like just squirt milk at enemies. So just ridiculous stuff. Like yeah, so I just make the most ridiculous stuff in Game Maker at that age, as you do.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel about? So my next question will be more of a personal question. How do you feel
Yeah.
about were your like family and close friends supportive about your decision that you actually started being a game dev and you followed your dreams?
So at the time I did it, I had the guidance counselor tell me it was too hard.
Okay,
Even though I was already making games and I was going to pursue an art kind
I
of
see, I
direction.
see, I see, I see.
Um, yeah, so but my parents were just like, no, we're gonna support you. So I always had my parents backing. Because like my mom was an artist and my dad was kind of
I
like
see.
doing his own business. So and knew how to deal with businesses. So I had their backing always. So thanks to them, I was able to go to like an academy where they were just like they taught me 3D. And they were kind of like, it's going to be hard out there because the industry wasn't in a great place in Australia at the time. Studios were closing, so um, yeah, they're just telling you that like you have to level up, and you have to just keep going. So I just kind of stuck to it until I kind of broke into the industry.
That's very nice of
Yeah,
them, by the way. That's very nice of them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I always had the support of friends and family, which was really good. But it was a different time then where people were just like, it's not like it is now. There's just so many ways you can do it, and there's the community is so huge on the internet.
True,
You
true,
can,
true,
you
true,
can
true, true,
yeah.
true. Do you think, by the way, it was so important for you that without the help and the supportive people around you, like your parents and friends, it would be way harder?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I was always determined to do it,
I see.
but like, it's like, yeah, I just had the I guess the guidance and the blessing, not the pressure from my parents. They could just be like, you can go off and kind of do this, but you have to be serious about it.
I see.
Like, so they're like, you have to in high school, you have to do, the extra hard maths. We're gonna make you extra. I was like, I hate.
They were strict
It was
about it,
too
right? But
hard.
it helped you.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna be an artist. Like, I don't need to do like, the highest maths, but they still made me do it, and yeah, so it was all good. But yeah, they're like, if you're gonna do this, you have to be serious. So they
I
were
see.
firm but supportive. Yeah,
Do you feel
yeah,
like you consider your parents as mentors as well?
yes, yeah. My mum kind of like she had a job as like a graphic artist, so I kind of learned very young from her. So like just learning bits and pieces how to do art. So I got kind of a cheat sheet, before I even jumped in, and then I just kind of kept drawing from there. And then my dad was all business, so I kind of learned about business, along the way.
Devil in the
So
video game industry, right? The business part when you have to market your game.
yeah, yeah. So I got to get those pieces handed to me pretty early.
I see.
And it was just up to me to kind of pursue it, keep focused, keep my head down and just keep going. Yeah.
Were there times, by the way, when you had like misunderstandings with your family when they like had this side of their vision and you had like a totally different vision and you had to like argue with them on your games?
Um, not with my games and my personal stuff, but they're basically like, you got to get a job in the industry. And I was like, a little bit of pressure because it's kind of like, there were no jobs. And back then, like it was really rare to like really hard and really rare back
I
in the
see.
2010 to get a job. But after a few more courses, I just got the like I was able to sneak through as like an intern at a place, and they kind of hired me on afterwards. But yeah, like there was a bit of pressure to actually get a job because it's like the traditional family where they're like, you have to put the work in, you have to get the job. So I could never indie dev, and even like 7 years later, I still didn't tell my parents like I had quit my job, and I was like, just doing indie dev, living off my own savings. So like I had to tell them, maybe 2 years later that I was like, hey, I'm kind of doing this thing because like they were very like, you got to keep your job. So there's that aspect to it because I didn't want their judgment, and they kind of don't understand that you can get freelance work, or you can jump
True.
off,
True.
um, have a bit of fun with your career at some stage. But yeah,
Yeah, I think that at our parents' days, like it was like way less opportunities, right, to have like freelancer jobs, but it was like more stable to have a job right now, right? So it's like that
yeah,
balance between that having an unstable life but still like have plenty of opportunities that you can choose from.
yeah. So yeah, that kind of was a thing for a
Yeah,
while, but yeah, it's been pretty good. So I've got a few friends that always support me, So it's all been a journey to this point. I mean, it's always a journey when you
true,
do
true, true,
anything in life. Yeah.
true, true. Okay. Okay. So you were talking about like your very first ideas that you might have not finished, and we were talking about like you might be back to those ideas. So when you like first started your very first ideas that you haven't finished, what influenced those ideas of your games?
Um, I had this. I don't think it would sell, but I just had this really ridiculous kind of Mortal Kombat game where you played as like these kind of odd kind of creatures where you played with like as a. I mean, maybe today would work in like more of a Super Smash Brothers type of
Okay,
thing,
okay.
like a chameleon with like razor blades on its arm, and then it was just like a crow with a giant claw attached to it. It's like just like a totally ridiculous kind of Super Smash Brothers.
Like an
That I
arcadish style game type of that.
yeah,
Nice, nice, nice.
yeah. And then I think I made a Worms clone, so I can't do
Oh,
that.
okay,
It was
nice.
just it was called Slugs. It just like they had a lot of power ups instead of like it wasn't turn based. It was like split screen, real time,
Oh,
and
okay.
you just kept collecting power ups, and you could just like bounce high and shoot
And you
bazookas.
haven't even released these games?
No, because I wanted to move more
Why?
into adventure.
But
Yeah,
why?
it just takes time. It takes time.
No
Um,
way. Are you
yeah,
planning
I did.
to? Are you planning to get back to these games?
Look, yeah, look, if there's definitely like more time and money, I
Okay.
definitely would like to revisit some of those, yeah. And there was a horror, like a kind of like horror, a Red Riding Hood game where you played as
Okay.
like this very like small. I definitely see enough Red Riding Hood games, just it was like a 2D scroller hack and slash. But interesting enough, I made 10 years ago, I actually made the main character from Junklands as a 2D side scroller,
Okay.
and it was just kind of sitting there in this cardboard world. So the idea is that it was like cardboard, and then like you could like recycle enemies and stuff, and it was called Cutout, and you just had to save these other little cardboard creatures, and it just sat on my wall for 10 years.
Wow. That's a long
And
time.
yeah, the drawing. Yeah, a long time. And I was like, I was after my first game, I was like, I want to make an adventure game. And I was just kind of sitting there. I was like, I got these cool mechanic ideas to do with like a boomerang shield. And I was like, I don't know what the world can be. But then I kind of looked over and I was like, oh, that pollution world, it might be cool visiting. What if we, made it more about pollution, just rather than just like cardboard. Um, and then I started from there. So I had my protagonist, gave him an update, still the cardboard kind of character, but I was like, okay, so what are we doing in this world? And interesting story. My mother sort of passed before the end of my first game. So that was
I'm sorry
like it
for
was
your
just like,
loss.
yeah, it was very like hard. But I was like, this character on his journey now, he ends up taking Mother Earth with him, And that was kind of like, and then Mother Earth kind of like teaches him and then kind of sets him free to go along the way. And for me, I was like, well, that's kind of like mirroring my
I appreciate
life.
your honesty, by the way. I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, yeah. So like that for that was like, well, that kind of inspired that kind of, the game. So there is a kind of like kind of maternal element in the story of the game here and there, but it kind of just like helps slot things in place. So
Yeah.
the character actually Mother Earth is trapped in this ball. And that's kind of like what happened to my mum. She ended up being like trapped. So the game's
I
very
see.
like on a personal level, the game is like transformative. Like you've taken things from my life and kind of like put it
That's very
into the
nice of
journey.
you, by the way. That's very nice of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So like yeah, the character, this naive little character out in this world that he doesn't know. He's got mother like he actually carries Mother Earth with him in his hand. So she's always with
Oh,
you.
so is
You
that
know.
that little creature, green creature?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
So I
Because I wanted to ask that. That who is that little creature? Okay, nice,
Yeah, yeah. So I
nice,
thought it'd be cool rather than putting it away like in so many games where they put
nice,
it in an invisible venture. I was like, I'll make you carry it, and you're
nice.
always here. And then you can do some really cool powers. So you can recycle enemies. You just like boom, recycle. So it's only reserved for like, the most powerful kind of things.
Nice,
But just be cool. I was like, yeah, just be cool to carry it. And it just like,
nice.
and then I put myself into a corner. So it's like, okay, what's going to happen when I need to use two hands? The character needs to use two hands. So do I put it away? Am I holding on to it while I'm like on the ledge? So it created like a very like kind of unique kind of situation where, you kind of want to force yourself into like these decisions where you're like, oh, what am I going to do with this now? Like it's usually other games will just put it away, but I want to keep it here. So it kind of changes the kind of path that you create stuff now.
Hmm.
And it's a cool way to kind of work because you kind of discover all these new things you can kind of do
True, true,
with like ideas and the creative process. Yeah.
true, 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 true. And it's also on an emotional level, it's very true because I agree with you that all of us who lost somebody on the way that is precious to us and important to us, we always keep their memories, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
say with this very harsh and mad way of saying it that we have to like let it go, but nobody lets go their parents or their grandparents or anyone who they lost on the way. So it's very nice of you saying this, that you are keeping your mother with yourself in the game as well, not just in real life but in the game as well, and like she is the
Yeah. Yeah.
superhero in the game, we could say, that gives you powers. It's very nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because at the time it was very devastating that like I should have taken a break from releasing my first game. I just powered through because I didn't know what to do.
I see.
And then when I started working my next game, I was like, this is how I kind of felt.
I see.
And they always say that when you're kind of developing things, you put yourself in it. And I was like, this kind of makes
True,
the
I
most
agree.
sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, by the way, this question, that is it true
Yeah.
for you as well, that as a creator you put your inner self into the game, but you already answered me, so thank you for that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I find that I tend to create very naive, innocent characters. And I kind of feel that does reflect me a little bit. I am
I
like
see.
a bit like innocent on my journey, I feel like I'm more on the innocent, end of the spectrum. And until I've gone through, the kind of ups and downs of everything, the hard moments, I've only come out, being a different kind of person. So I would definitely say, my characters are, oddballs, not strong, but have good hearts, kind of awkward, but very
Like you,
meek
right? So
and
it's you basically. Yeah.
yeah, I mean like exaggerated, but you want to always exaggerate characters, but
True,
yeah,
true, true,
like naive, innocent into like a new world
true.
is probably how I'd summarize it. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
speaking of these topics that you have mentioned now, could we reflect to the shield that it might be also someone from your life, maybe your father, or like, or maybe
Um,
anyone from your life, because like it goes away and comes back. It's like also a symbolic thing, right? If I'm
yeah,
touching
yeah.
it correctly.
I feel like my dad was more like a stern figure,
Okay.
so they'll probably pop up somewhere.
Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, but the shield was like purely mechanic, so I
Oh,
was like,
it's
I wanted
mechanic
him
more.
to
Okay.
feel.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, for me, before I start anything, I was like, there has to be kind of after my first game, I learned a lot about design, and then going forward, I wanted to be like, there has to be three things that kind of define this game. And it was kind of like the pollution theme, the shield, and then like the environment kind of changing. And the shield mechanic was the first thing designed. And the idea was that you could just throw it and come back, and that it'd be used in puzzles, and you could just change forms, and then you could use it in a different way. So the idea was that you could use it in battle and you could use it in puzzles, kind of like a Metroidvania kind of thing.
I see.
But then I would kind of layer it. I was like, what else can the shield do? It can block, it can reflect. I was like, I really want to explore everything this boomerang shield can do. And then the combat keeps like kind of evolving. And now I've got some cool moves coming out where like, you know, it's also about timing your throw, but also like what happens if you have some moves when you catch your throw? Can you combo that up? So it's like you're dashing, throwing, catching, shielding, and then it could just kind of to become like this cool frenzy, where you're like dodging all these bullets and then choosing some to like reflect back, and then you throw it, leaving yourself open. So like it like accidentally created this like really cool kind of um like there's a few games like it, but like I just really wanted to put it to 11 and see like what you could do with one weapon and what would happen if you didn't have that weapon at the time.
Like
You
it's
know,
fast,
kind
but it's also in the same way it's more tactical, right? That you have to like
yeah,
realize in a very fast pace that what you have to do if you are surrounded, for example, with a lot of enemies.
yeah. So it's like time management, and
Yeah,
then how we combat that is once you bring down an enemy's health low enough, do you have the opportunity to go in closer and recycle them so you can wipe them from the board?
I see.
Um, And then, like with that, you can also gain some more health. So if you end up losing all your health, you're like, well, I'm going to change my tactics. Maybe I'll block some more attacks, hit one enemy that I think's low, go in closer, recycle them, more health, and then you can kind of go back to be more like kind of aggressive. And that's the kind of like sweet spot we were trying to hit for a while, but we kind of got there. And even with the recycling, if you kill an enemy and normally it'll drop litter, so it'll leave something on the battlefield that you would now have to avoid.
Oh,
But if
okay,
you
okay, nice.
yeah, yeah, so like but if you recycle it, you get more currency and health back, and then
That's a
they
very
don't drop.
unique thing because in a lot of games enemies just disappear, right? So
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, I'm still testing it, but it seems to be working. But it also like forces you to use the shield more, so it pushes you back into defense.
I see, I see, I see.
So yeah, it's like there's pros and cons for each way you move in battle, and then it's like, well, okay, so there's more puddles in this area that will be there for like a limited amount of time, which means I might have to shield in this area more so while I'm moving out of this area. So it's kind of like every kind of like mechanic with the combat is kind of like building on each other, and
I
then like
see,
there'll be more like kind of super moves.
I see, I see,
And
I
then
see.
the last thing is the shield actually has like stamina, so you can't just use all your special
Oh,
moves.
okay.
Yeah, so like there's this thing called quick throw. So if you like catch it and then throw it again straight away, time will slow down, and then you'll just do like a really fast high damage throw, back at an enemy, and
Okay.
it'll use up more stamina compared to blocking.
Nice.
So it's like, yeah. So we've really worked on making this combat kind of feel cool and unique, and it can kind of stand, aside. It's not just like a game, where you fight, polluted enemies. There's this whole combat aspect to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
you really have to have your own tactics in order to like evolve and go further in the game. I like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There'll be a few perks that allow you to kind of like, if you want to play more like melee, it'll let you do that, or you could probably play more passive, or
I see.
there's different perks that you can apply that makes your gameplay more interesting. You can kind of change it up. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So you were also talking about the setting and the theme, which is connected to a polluted world. So was it something that was like close to your heart as well, that you feel like we are living in such a polluted world, or how that theme came from, or what has influenced that theme of yours, of your game?
Yeah. So I really like with nature. I do think like you want to preserve it. You want because like nature's one of those things that we all kind of enjoy. We go out to like
True,
walk at
true, true,
parks and all
true.
that stuff, and then you just kind of hear what's going on like around the world, and you're like, are we going to get to a stage where it just like the air's not so great, and I'm not like super like activist, but it's
Okay.
just kind of like I wanted to like tell the story in a more entertaining way.
I
Like
see,
I'm
I
not
see, I see.
preaching. I'm not preaching to anyone, but I'm just like,
But the message
you
is
know,
still there, like to have for people who are
yeah,
connected with
yeah,
you.
because like, yeah, I don't like it when I go outside and there's just like, uh, like waste somewhere or like, how to explain, like, you just know that, there's like, factories just polluting the air and
True, true,
people
true.
get sick and it's just kind of like it's not great
True,
because we all
true.
kind of like or like a forest is kind of affected by it so that was kind of my driving point but I wanted to explore it and every time I kind of like take on a theme I want like I sit there and exploring it I just found all this stuff and like I said I'm not an activist but I thought it was really interesting to explore and I was like what if this world was just like let's just set it to like 1,000. Let's just see what happens, what a world would look like if, it was built out of, one area is just like the water's completely diluted,
True,
you
true.
know. Yeah, so it's just like taking these themes, exploring in an entertaining way. So I'm never telling you this is what you're responsible for
True,
because I
true, true,
don't
true.
necessarily think that, any single person's responsible for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of like that kind of thing. It's like I'm exploring the theme, I'm having fun with the theme because like it is fun to like make all these kind of like
True,
goo
true.
creatures here and there, and then we'll kind of like reflect, tell a story that two stories. It's like the character's journey and a polluted world. So it's like I always say like I wanted to make a world that you can actually see needs saving because like so many of these games there's like green meadows, nice places to kind of roam, and there's a bad guy who's just like, oh, I'm taking over the land. And I was like, I really want to make a place where that the villain has really, taken over the land and really, it's up to you to save it. Like it really needs your help, kind of thing. So that was the attitude I was kind of going for. Like you can actually see that it needs your help.
Do you
And
remember,
that
by
kind
the
of
way, the game? Sorry for interrupting. Do you remember the
yeah,
game called The Blob? It also had like a very
yeah,
similar feeling to your game, where you had this corrupted world without colors, and you had to color all the elements and levels of the game.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So there was I love that game. There's another number of influences. So it's like Fern Gully. It's an old 90s
yeah,
cartoon movie about fairies being pushed out of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
their
yeah.
forest. That's very like the villain of that's very cool, but also like it kind of like nails the story there. Wally's a bit of another one kind of like Wally's kind of like, they've had to leave the planet. Yeah.
True, 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 true,
And even like that, it's done very subtly where it's like you can kind of see the effects, but it's not telling you this is your fault. It's
true,
kind of
true,
like,
true, true.
they're just trying to fix it, like, because it's the world's gone to a dark
Or
place.
at
So it's
least
not
think about it after playing your game, right? So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
question
I
ourselves what could we do at the end of our day? Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I kind of wanted to go, well, let's explore this thing, instead of like, knights trying to save a princess or trying to save, the land taken from darkness. It's the same thing, but it's just like in a different way,
true,
it's just
true, true.
like, this toxic sludge. It's when it comes down to it, it's not that different. It's just like, the kind of theme that you kind of wrap it in. But with saying that, there's different things you do. You do save critters trapped in plastic you do kind of like try to change your environment, new things kind of grow. So there's a lot of like cool things I'm doing with the environment growing, which kind of like goes into the next like unique thing of the game where um the as you like go through a level, you transform it and then it changes kind of the layout a little bit. So when you backtrack to that place, maybe there's mushrooms there that you can bounce on now. Maybe they've closed off some old pathways. The vines have closed off pathways, but now you can reach this new point. So we thought that as you complete a level, you wouldn't get an ability, but the area itself would get an ability. So it's like you don't get the ability to jump on mushrooms. They grow there, and then you can jump on them as like the environment's like gift to you to like to be able to traverse the level. So it just helped us double down on the environment theme, where it's like you're in an adventure game, you're exploring the environment. You're discovering secrets. You just we thought the environment's like kind of a perfect kind of like intertwining of this. So it's like we've kind of doubled down the environment as well because it's like how can we weave like player progression exploring and adventuring and having your impact affect your surroundings. So it was really cool to kind of like dip into that and be like, well, you've got a metal form now, so now you can like walk in a lava area, or like there's just all these different things we're kind of mucking around with. We really want the environment to kind of change subtly as you play on and have you affect it in tiny ways. Yeah. So I'm very excited about it. It's really
Me
hard
too.
to
I cannot wait to
yeah.
get my hands on your
Yeah.
game and to play it actually after
The
you
best way I
release
can
it.
describe the environment changing is kind of like Bowser's Fury. I don't know if you played Bowser's Fury, but in Bowser's Fury,
I think
Bowser
I
will come
played a
out as
bit, yeah.
yeah. So every now and again you'll be Mario running around the island, and then Bowser will come out like this oil version of Bowser, and then the environment goes black, and then all these kind of like platforms come down, and he's throwing stuff at you, and I was like, that's cool. Like the environment's changed, it changes how you play, and
True,
that
true,
was
true.
kind of
You
like
have to
very
adapt to
like
it, right? So
yeah. So like it was just kind of like, okay, that's cool. How can we do that in a more permanent way or on a bigger scale?
I see, I see.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, what can we do with the environment? So we're kind of focusing on the pollution theme, the shield combat, and then like the environment changing. Is kind of like the DNA of Junklands. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So throughout your journey as being a game developer, how do you feel? How have you changed as a person in other territories of your life? And what also my question would be, what skills have you picked up into other territories of your life from being a game developer yourself?
Oh, not okay. So I rushed out my first game because I was so determined to put out a game
Okay.
that I was just like, because my first goal was just to put out a game. In all honesty, it was like I've only got like a limited amount of money, you know. Um, I don't have a big budget. My first goal is to push out a game. Kind of realized, and I would work like long hours, completely like just tunnel vision. And after I released my first game, I just realized that I need to slow down and I need to bring more balance to my life. So I love doing games. Like I will like research, watch things. I will play them. I will sit there and draw. But I realized, after that first game and my mom passing, I was just like, I need to slow down. I need to, balance. So I didn't have balance. I was kind of like um, just powering through. And that was like that kind of like inspired my villain of like Junklands as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like my toxic side is like it's inspiration for the villain. So I was just doing a lot of reflection after my first game, and I was just like, I need to slow down. I need to do some balance. I need to get out. I need to I need to not focus everything in here because I would just be thinking, even when I was at, I'd just be thinking games, 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 you know.
But that's
Um
passion,
so
right? So it shows that you are really passionate about your project.
yeah,
So it's not a
yeah,
bad thing
but
in my opinion.
yeah. So it's like passion, but it's like it's kind of like the Moby Dick kind of thing. It's like when when passion, goes a little bit too far. So
True, true,
after
true.
that sort of thing, I was like, I need to take more breaks. And I kind of found out, and I come across a quote that said, productivity does not equal creativity. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I
True.
realized that my most creative moments weren't sitting there pushing out content. It was like getting away from the computer, with a sketchbook, just sitting there. I'd go on holidays and I'd come up with a few ideas and I'd come back and I was like, oh, I can do that. That's a good idea. And I was like, well, that's not me being productive. That's me taking a holiday and just sitting there doing nothing. So I kind of worked out that, the more time I take away from the computer, the more productive I can be in some situations. So I
I
was
see.
like, if I need to be creative, I'll go away. And then when I need to implement that stuff, I'll come back. And then I kind of work faster. So for me, it was like a kind of a huge turning point where I was like, I need to figure out better ways to not just like steamroll through things. Yeah, yeah.
I see.
And also, I think that being an indie dev, um, you kind of like, I didn't have any limitations. So I was like, I could do the art, I could do the programming and animation, but that was like, and I found I was like, I can just because I can do it doesn't mean I should. Kind of thing, because you can add a feature and it'll just like it'll just keep going, and I could snowball things forever. So I was like, I gotta learn constraint as well.
I see.
Um, so that would be the biggest things for me. And then I kind of like preach that now that it's good to like be creative in a different space. You know, it's always like sometimes I'll sit in front of the computer and just draw, but I still feel like my brain is like in a different kind of state when it's like away from the computer. Like even when I'm stuck on bugs, I'll go for a walk and I'll solve it on the walk, and then
Nice.
come back, and because like my brain's just open, like I'm not sitting there looking at the same thing. I'll come back and I was like, it's like I've put an E in there. That's why the whole thing's not working. I've misspelt it.
Nice.
So yeah, it's
Nice.
definitely good to take breaks, and I think I wasn't taking enough, if I'm honest with myself. So
I see.
um, might be a bit of a strange answer, but that was kind of my journey, you know, years ago. Um,
No,
yeah.
it was a perfect answer, and thank you. Like I said
Yeah.
before, thank you for your honesty. Thank you. So you were talking about these skills or these like topics that you picked up on the way and you changed for the better for yourself and for your health. So, and what other skills would you like to also pick up on the way? So, how do you feel about that?
I think I want to sit more in probably it's a bit of a weird one, but I want to sit more in design because
Okay.
I think there's a lot more for me to because I'm really good at doing art and completing tasks,
Okay.
but also like I feel like I need to sit there and like just experiment more. And I think when you're a designer, you've got more of a like I'll throw this out or I want to keep going with this. So I'm still learning it. But I definitely think for even for indie devs, there's kind of like there's you know it's really good to kind of like throw out your ideas sometimes and start again, or just be like, no, let's keep exploring. Or what if I change this? Or what if I just make this, 11? Because like kind of with the combat in Jacklands, I was like, all right, what if I just set this to it being crazier? And it became more fun. Like it's more intense, and I was like, okay, cool. So the enemies are more intense. It's like a lot more fun, and now I can add more moves in there because I'm not just stuck with these basic moves. Now I can add in more powerful moves to kind of like see what people are going to do with them. So that it was definitely a good idea to like just be like, can I make this harder, or can I push it further, or can I just throw out this idea and pick something else, or like really be okay with throwing out ideas and then just like starting again.
I see.
If you did like, because like even with my last game, Nominal Apocalypse, it wasn't it wasn't the game I wanted to make. So it was like it ended up being like a casual kind of roguelite shooter, arcade shooter that was kind of a roguelite. But I really wanted to make it a level based one where it was just like, all right, you've completed this level, now go over to this arena. So more arena based. And I found out that I probably would have had to do less work in the long run if it was arena based rather than sitting there having to make a modular, kind of thing that kind of repeated over and over. So if I could go back, I definitely learned, that if your gut is telling you that, um, if it doesn't feel right, then it's totally okay to start over and scrap your work and do something that you prefer. I'm happy with the result of, my first game, like it was a roguelite, but if I could go back, I'd probably like make it more of an arena based kind of shooter. And that's kind of what I felt. I was like, because it was done out of budget, not out of like desire. And I was like, I should make the games I want to make and not the games I think I have to make.
True.
So
True. True.
yeah, so that was my philosophy going forward. Yeah, so a lot learned through the first game. Yeah.
And speaking of that topic that you just mentioned, so what could be the case, or what was the case behind your decision that you weren't changing, or your first game that you wanted to really change, like you just said? Like, what? How do you
Uh,
feel about that? Like, what could be the case behind that you wasn't like changing anything that you really felt like needs to be changed at your first game when you were
um,
developing it?
I think it was just like I'm already too far into this, and I don't know if I have the money to complete
I
this,
see. I
start
see.
again. So but like I wasn't being smart either because like I didn't realize that I could go out and maybe contract or maybe get a part-time job or like I wasn't thinking that I don't have to. I don't like there's like I needed to learn that I just don't have to stay the course. Like there's different ways to do things. It
I
just
see.
I was really determined to do that indie kind of thing. But I would say that don't do that. Don't do that. Like you definitely support yourself because you can make better decisions. Like, yeah, I think if I had maybe like if I was doing freelancing or if I had a part-time job during like that game, I think I would have made a lot better decisions.
I see.
And I could move like slowly, but I put myself on like an invisible clock. And I think it just forced out like it didn't like I said, I love the characters of the game. I love the gameplay. It's fairly polished, but I think it was just me completing a game. I definitely think there was room to prototype more and more and more, and then see what the funnest outcome was, or sit there and see how we could tie the theme, back into like maybe more of the gameplay elements. Because like afterward, we come up with an idea like, what if you collected food, and that's how you built your power ups, from making a sandwich or like a cake or something. I was like, too late. Come up with the idea
Yeah.
afterwards. So it's just like, if I'd sat on it longer. So with Junklands, I've done the sort of opposite. I've kind of sat in pre-production for longer and just like sit there like pumping out ideas and testing what would work. So it's been a slower journey, but a more rewarding journey because I've taken everything that I kind of learned from the first game and implemented it in and made sure that because I really am passionate about making an adventure game because I grew up just playing them all the time, and I was like, the first one was kind of a trial run for me, but this is one I really want to get right. Like I really, I spend like hours, in this place all the time. I was like, I really want to get it right and have people enjoy the experience. Yeah.
It's very interesting that you were talking about this, that it's really a balance of and mix of like you really want your game to be successful and be out there for players to enjoy, but still don't like get away too much from your own ideas and to be you, right? So it's a very hard balance in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like you're juggling with the game needs to be like because you can make a game for yourself, but it
True,
still needs
true,
to work for other people,
true,
right?
true,
So
true, true,
it's
true.
like you still like that's why I think like making a platformer now, just as like maybe like a 64 type one might sell, but I don't think it would because like it's just not enough for people to chew on now. But that being said, I've seen some great
Yeah, but it's a rare genre right now, so it's like not a lot of platformers out there, especially not a lot
yeah.
of 3D platformers. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So like it just depends. I was like, well, you know, if I was like, because like Psychonauts 2 is like I love Psychonauts 2, but I was like, I can't just make a Psychonauts 2. I have to like make something that I think is going to be different in its
true,
own
true,
way,
true,
so it
true,
can
true.
stand against
Yeah,
Psychonauts. Yeah. So yeah, it's just it was just like yeah, spending the time to kind of figure out like what do I want to make, what I think people are going to enjoy, what people are going to get excited about. And I just found the receptive for this game a lot different because I did in my first game. I had someone read it. They're like, so they were like they were right though, but they were like, um, so what is different about this game except that you verse food monsters? And I was like, that's a good question, and I should have listened to that person because it was a valid piece of feedback. I still wanted to make my game, but it was just kind of like you kind of hear what people kind of say, you see the comments, and I've just noticed like with this game, I seem to be hitting my markers. There's a lot more people excited. They think the character's cool. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's kind of like because I lean more towards art. The art's easy for me, but like I'm really making sure that the gameplay for people is something that they can grab onto and that the world is somewhere where they want to spend hours,
true, true, true,
is the
true.
most important thing for me at this point in time. So that's kind of the kind of mindset I'm having. Um, I think that's the answer to your question. I'm not sure if I just
Yeah,
went
it
on a
is, but
tangent.
it brought me up another question as well, or comments,
Yeah,
or compliments to you, that I feel like those people who were saying this on Reddit, if I'm correct, you said Reddit, like
yeah,
they might be right about that, but still, like I feel like now that you explained that you wanted to like have a different kind of perspective on your very first game, it like
yeah,
it makes understandable for people and also for me that you really wanted a change in your game. It's just you had like real life issues and you were a bit, we could say, scared about the money situation. And that's why I also like started my dev life show, because I always feel like now we are living in such a cancel cultural era, especially if it comes to the video game industry, that a lot of players are not understanding that it's real human beings who are making these games, and they have like real emotional and other real life problems which can affect their journey of being a game dev, like you just
yeah,
mentioned. And it's that attitude of players should change, in my opinion, that they should be like more understanding towards the developers like you too. Like, okay, they made this I don't know, opinion on Reddit about your game, but they still might be able to question why you did that, right? So why it might fall up and being like a similar game to other games to the similar genre, and would you want it to change? But now here we are sitting and you were talking about that you really wanted to change. And I feel like that's what a lot of people, not just as players but in general, like we as human beings are missing of questioning the people why they did that. Like even if they are doing, I don't know, bad things, it's not a bad thing what you did, but for example, like killers, why they are killing anyone, right? So we are not questioning, we are just judging. And I feel like that's the real problem of humans. And especially if we just go down to the topic of the video game industry, I feel like it's very big problem, in my opinion, because it's easier to judge, right, than to put yourself into other shoes, like for example for into your shoe. And I think
yeah,
that those people who might judge your game of what you said on Reddit, for example, if they were in the same situation, they might end up doing the same, right? So it's like crazy how people can easily
yeah.
judge but not understand others. So
Yeah, I mean, I was okay with the comic because I was like, I know what stage I am in kind of like my kind of career journey with this. So I was like, I know I'm gonna make
yeah,
mistakes.
true, it's understandable.
Um,
But what I said is
yeah,
like they should be
yeah,
like more understandable towards you, right? So it's like
yeah,
you are a human being as just me and others as well, with ideas, with crazy
yeah,
perspective to get your games out there for the people. They should appreciate that and not like judge you. So
yeah,
I feel like what people really don't understand is like there's a point where you end up judging others, but you don't or won't understand that it can affect them in a very bad way, because sometimes it might affect developers in a way when they start to question themselves more. Am I doing the right thing for the players? Am I like
yeah,
not sacrificing enough from my vision? Should I like sacrifice more from my vision and to take away from my vision? And it ends up being a game for everyone but for no one, right? So it's like that's the problem
yeah,
of the
yeah.
judgment, if we bring up this topic.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, it's really hard to tell people to kind of be like empathetic and
True, true,
mindful
true,
like
true, true, true,
every minute of the day
true,
because
true,
it's like I like to think, when you drive through like, a takeaway place and you get McDonald's or something and you drive off and you're like, they forgot my order. You kind of get angry and you kind of like lose sight that it's like kind of
true.
people working. So it's kind of the same thing. It's
True,
just like,
true, exactly. Like they have real life
it's like,
issues as well. They might have like
yeah,
suffered
yeah,
something bad in their life and we don't know about it. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things. I think, yeah, it's hard because it's like, yeah, you do want to. I think what devs could do would be talk more to
True,
people. I
exactly,
think so.
exactly.
Yeah, I've been talking more, trying to be like, here I am, kind of thing.
True, true, true,
Because I think that's why people like indie devs a lot more because there's a lot more heart coming from like these people because they're smaller. You kind of see
true,
them.
true, true, true.
They're kind of talking more,
Connect
with the AAA
easier with
games.
them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's just a kind of a different wave where you can like people are kind of listening to like players. They're kind of like it just feels like more homecraft, and
True,
with the kind of
true,
homecraft feeling, it feels less commercial and less cold, and I feel like that's why indies are becoming more beloved,
true, true,
and the
true.
AAA are kind of like I mean, don't get me wrong, AAA games are fantastic, but you can definitely see in the comments like people are less likely to be sympathetic towards AAA studios than they are to indie devs. I do think that there's been quite a shift over time.
True.
I mean, there's always that one odd person that will say something, but there's always like five more people that will say something nice, which is
True,
good.
true, true,
Definitely
true,
think it's good.
true, true,
Yeah,
true. Yeah, my only concern and problem with this of people saying very negative, it's not even that they are saying negative things. Don't get me wrong. Like everyone should has their opinion, but like being
yeah,
very harsh about it is what makes me like angry and sad about the fact that
yeah,
like they never understand that they can change developers like life for the worse. And we've seen like a lot
yeah,
of examples when like developers had to like take a step back or even like got very depressed. I was talking to some developers who like were very depressed because a lot of people like hated on their game and it was like a very bad feeling for them. And I feel like what people do not understand is it's okay for you to not like something and also to judge, but you should be like you said just right, empathetic about it. Like you should not
yeah,
go into a very personal level when you hurt others because it's like not fighting with each other that who has the right answer for it, but it's you either enjoying the game, the products, or not, and that's all. Like you don't have to like make others people like they bad just because you don't enjoy something. Like okay, go to the next game, play that one, like right. So you don't have to be an asshole about it.
yeah. I definitely think there's kind of two sides where it's like we live in kind of like more of a society where you can kind of see through the comments of everything is people are more likely to kind of say something that I don't like, and I will never understand that because I was like, why would I spend time and energy putting my my thinking about things I don't like?
True,
like,
exactly,
like,
exactly. That's what I'm always saying. Like, why should I write a comment about I don't like something and being an asshole about it if I don't like it, right? So it's like me watching
yeah,
football even though I don't like football and don't like watching sports. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
stupid. Like, why? Why
yeah,
are you doing
yeah.
that? Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing I think people are venting as well, like sometimes I feel like, if you have a bad day or you kind of can't do something with your negative energy, sometimes you just have like this
Exactly.
involuntary
And
response
it
to
can
kind of like,
affect, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's clear, it's all human. And then the last thing I think is, and I was talking to another developer about this, is they care about the game. So they want it to be better, but they'll still leave you a negative comment. So these people actually care about it enough to leave you a negative comment. So it's like, so they do care
Yeah,
because they
but
put the effort in
yeah, but
to,
picture
to
this,
make,
like even if they care, like players might not understand the vision of the creator. And what I'm always
yeah,
saying is that like if a creator has a vision, but you as a player care about its game because you're connected somehow with the game, even if it's the graphics or the gameplay or the sound or the music or anything, or it might be the story, or you might understand really the vision of the creator, still you won't be able to like put yourself perfectly in his or her or the team's shoes. And I feel like that's the real problem. That's why you can't be a control over the people's vision who are making these games. Like I'm always joking
yeah,
with this that a lot of players are saying that okay, I need this game to be good, but if you would down to be or me asking them what makes that game good, they might not have an answer for that because they do not understand
yeah,
what is a good game for them, and they can't don't have the control over the word of good. Like okay, good game, but what is a good game for you? Like okay, please,
yeah,
make a list about it. Like is it the graphics, is it the story, is it like a gameplay, is it all mixed together or what? Like they are not willing to understand that. And I feel like that's the real
yeah,
problem in human beings. Like okay, say it's a good game, but why it is good to you, and what would you like to like have in that game? But if we came to if we would came to that conversation, a lot of players wants have the right answers for it because they do not
Yeah,
understand what is a good game for them, and that's it.
yeah, and you more than likely will get them features in a sequel.
True, true,
Yeah, because I was like, even in the first Batman Arkham game, like it was pretty cool.
true,
But it was pretty contained.
true,
That's what made it enjoyable. But the second game, they opened it up more.
true, true.
Um,
And you see
yeah, and you're like,
that
oh,
all of the Batman Arkham games evolved throughout the time, right? So you see
yeah,
all the like new skills that you could get, or the open world opened up really more. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, all those
yeah. It was kind of like
additions.
second game. This city's cool, but I wish I could drive through with the
True, true,
Batmobile.
true,
And then
true.
the
And
third
you
game, they
could,
had the
and you could,
Batmobile.
yeah.
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
next,
So more often than not, it's like there's like this triangle, and at each end there's like uh budget, quality, and time. And
true,
usually in any business, you can only pick two of those things.
true,
Because if you pick, quality and time, then it's going to cost you like a lot of money, and then the kind of the other sides will like, play with that other one in the corner. So I definitely say, there's always like that. But and with AAA games, I just find like, yeah, they're finding they're getting too expensive to make now as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing smaller games coming out of the AAA space because their games are getting longer and more expensive, so we're losing time. So that's probably a good example of that as well. It's like they have the money and they have the quality at a
true,
sacrifice of time.
true,
Yeah.
true, true.
But
Very
I,
true.
I definitely think indies get that advantage where they probably sacrifice a bit of money and mechanics to get it out the door in a smaller package where there can be some really fun results with that,
True, true,
rather than grinding.
true.
But yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
so going to like a more like positive topic, I can see a lot of goodies behind you, and I love those. So first of all, on your or left side, is it my right side? And on your left side, it's a Nightmare Before Christmas themed
Yes, yeah.
goodie. I love that. I love that. So it also influenced your game somehow.
Yes,
Nice.
I grew up on that movie. It blew my mind
Love
when I
it.
first
Love
saw
it.
it.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've been watching it. I watch it like once a year. I don't know. It's just like the stop motion, the way the characters are designed. I think for me, it's like, and this was the same for Oddworld and kind of Psychonauts too. I was like, there's always these kind of like, with Nightmare for Christmas, all the other Christmas movies are these nice, cute little elves and, Rudolph, and it's all nice. And then here comes along Nightmare for Christmas, this scary looking thing, they're still singing songs. All the characters are just out of this world. And it's like, this shouldn't be a Christmas story, but it kind of like defied expectations at the time. And it's just, you can see why it got a cult following because it's just, there's nothing like it. And there probably will
True.
be nothing like it
No one's
again.
Christmas is like that, right? So we
Yeah.
all
And they
have
managed,
some
yeah.
issues in life, so we have to deal with those. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
And
the
the
beauty in
story's
the pain,
great.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And it's really interesting because Jack is the actual villain of the story, but you would not think that. I only figured out recently that Jack's the villain of the story, but they had to add in Oogie Boogie to make him a greater villain. Because what Jack does, he goes out there, kidnaps Santa, stores him away, takes control of a whole season, makes everyone make these like presents without even doing any market research on what
true,
kids
true, true,
like.
true, true. Yeah, yeah.
Goes out there, gives people terrible gifts, gets blown up, and then he has to stop Sansa from being like destroyed by like a worse kind of creature in that world. So I was like, Jack was pretty careless, didn't listen to anyone. And I was like, that's kind of a cool story. He's like blinded by ambition just to get his way because he was bored. And only at the end he comes to his senses and stop it before he tries to fix it before it's destroyed forever. And I was like, that's a great story. He's fighting with the world pushing back on him trying to change things. It's just great. Like, yeah, it's just an amazing kind of movie for me.
Yeah,
Really changed my way of thinking with things. And I was like,
yeah.
well, I
For
want to
me
create
too.
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
it's
every Christmas we kind of watch it. It's just yeah.
nice. By the way, what I wanted to reflect to this topic, what you just have said, First is that I always play through Final Fantasy X every year, just like you watch
Yeah,
Nightmare Before Christmas, because it's a very special
yeah,
game to me. And also, what I have found out recently, that if you like picture for yourself all the Tim Burton movies, like Edward, sister, sisters,
Scissorhands.
Scissorhands, yeah,
Yeah,
like Frankie and Winnie, Beetlejuice, all the characters had a dog in it, and all the characters were like having very similar suits. So I'm reflecting that it's really like in all of those movies, Tim Burton is growing up, like from the kid perspective, being to an adult, right? So it's like I
yeah,
also
yeah,
found an art of it, like when all the characters from a child character, from the Frankie Winnie child, till the Tim Burton's like Nightmare Before Christmas Jack, it's growing up with the same dog, right? Zero and all the dogs that he lost on the
yeah,
way. It's very
yeah.
nice, by the way, seeing that.
Yeah, I like. I think I've got Zero, and I've got Frank and Winnie. I just got to get. I'm just trying to find the Scraps toy somewhere. I got to get the trio of them dogs for my collection. But yeah, so Tim Burton once said that Edward Scissorhands was kind of like modeled after him because he just felt like an outcast in Hollywood. Like he'd come into this world and no one understood him. So Edward Scissorhands is kind of like this character that just steps into this world that's completely opposite, and they eventually kind of like love his weirdness, and eventually adapt to him. But he's still like that was Tim Burton's experience in Hollywood. It just in like that kind of part of the world at the time. Like he just was not fitting in. So that was inspiration for him too. But yeah, I really like the way he kind of does his work. Yeah, like and yeah, for me, like I'll play Brutal Legend every year as well.
Love
Like
it, love it, love it. Okay,
yeah,
love your choices of games. Nice, and
yeah,
movies. Nice.
because I'm a big heavy metal fan, and I just love that world so much. Just jumping and driving a car, and then just playing solos. And I know people had a problem with like the kind of rock battles, but I just think it's
It was
something
awesome.
different to
Like
do.
also, it had the
Yeah,
multiplayer part when you could pair up with
yeah,
other players and fight against
yeah.
them. Yeah, it was awesome.
That
Like
would, that, that would be the
it
only
was a bit
part.
of
Yeah,
tower defense. It was a bit of
yeah,
like action. Also like
yeah.
rhythmic bass when you had to put out your guitar and play in order to melt down the faces of enemies. It was awesome. Like I loved it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like that Dota, yeah, kind of vibe. I would totally like. I enjoy it. Like, I think it's cool. Like,
yeah,
and being there in the battle, like, I just think it's really fun. And
exactly.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that game I'll play every year. And then when I was growing up, I'd play Abe's Exodus, like religiously, just to
nice,
the point where I could just just know everything. So I worn out the disc. Like, yeah,
nice,
yeah.
nice, nice, nice. Okay, so going to your right, speaking of those goodies. So first of all, the art behind you, is it a ghost? If I can see that
So
correctly?
yeah, so that the painting.
Yeah, the painting.
Yeah, so I really like this kind of how would you describe it? They're kind of like rubber hose rockabilly kind of like this artist, and he
Okay.
like just draws all these cool creepy characters. So I
Okay.
just bought his work. Like I'll always like buy like a sticker of his, or I got like some signed work from him. So I was like, oh, that's
Oh,
cool. It's like
nice.
a ghost.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's like the 50s kind of like the rat fink, or the kind of characters driving the hot rods
I
and
think
stuff. They
yes.
have the bulging eyes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of that style where it's like the custom culture. Like there's a style of art where it's all like rubber hose custom culture, kind of like motorbikes and Hot Wheels. The kind of like
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of vibe. And then yeah, so like I just got that because it's like yeah, very cool.
Nice.
Just a
Nice.
ghost
Nice.
fighting
Nice. 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 Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and seeing the plushie of your game's main character, main hero, so
Yeah.
that brings up another question from me. So, are you planning to have a collector's edition or a physical edition for your game? Because I'm a fan of
Oh,
it, so let me know if
yeah.
yes, or are there any
Look,
plans for it?
Yes, I will try my I love I love collecting toys and printing out stuff, and I love collector's editions of things. I will try to,
Nice.
so if I can make it happen somehow, even if it's like a limited run, I will definitely just try to do it just because I enjoy it so much, and
Nice.
it's fun for me to do. So we will
Nice, nice,
definitely
nice.
try.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
maybe even kickstart it or whatever. I would just love putting it out there into the world for people to have if they're interested. Yeah.
Nice, love to hear that. Okay, so and
Yeah.
speaking of editions, are you planning to release your game to other platforms as well, like consoles?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the plan is at this point to do PC and Switch,
Okay.
um, and then probably from there do some other consoles. It just depends on the bandwidth. So I'm
Okay.
keeping it pretty pretty sensible at the moment, and then from there I will push to more. It just depends on because it's it just depends on if I get more people, um, or if I have to do it myself. How long is that going to take to port it over? So I definitely want to do all consoles. I think it'd work on all consoles. I'm a console player, so I love PC, but I just love holding a controller. So
Yeah, me too.
I
That's
won't
why
use
I have.
keyboard.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, I got my controller right here. It's plugged in, so I'll definitely I just love the feeling of sitting back
true, true,
and it
true,
just
true.
must be growing up, just on a couch playing controller and
Exactly. The old school
it's
vibes, right? Of playing a video
yeah,
game.
yeah, fully immersive for me. I could lose 8 hours easily.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd love it to go on console, and just maybe do haptics on PlayStation 5 but yeah, it'd just be a time thing.
I see.
So
I see.
yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so a topic that we haven't discussed before is the bosses. There were some very short, like clips in the very first trailer of your game, and it shows some very cool and unique bosses as well. So, which
Yeah.
boss of your game was your favorite to have in your game, like so far?
Uh, so Junklands.
Yeah, 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 in Junklands.
Okay. All right. So,
Of course, without
and
spoilers. So, if there is any spoiler in it,
yeah, yeah. So the boss is going to be really cool. I'm just trying to figure out the budget here of how many I can do. I'm sort of going with less, but we're going to see a lot more of them. So, kind of I'll open by saying in games, I kind of feel like you get to the end of something, and then you just meet the boss. So I'm trying to figure out a way that you can kind of in most games you kind of know who the main villain is. And then you'll have some bosses along the way. But I kind of want to do it once you go into a new territory. You get to know the boss a little bit. You can see what drives them, what makes them interesting. So by the time you get to versing them, you're like, oh, I want to verse you because I know what's up with you. You got to go. You're causing havoc. Not just that they're there and they're like you're in my way kind of thing. So Brock was that the coal shoveler I think I've shown pictures of, and he's got the giant grill and the shovel. So he's the idea behind him is he's supposed to be an opening kind of boss that you kind of sneak away from. But I've got a new cool one, and this boss embodies greed, and they're very flamboyant. And I'll just say it's kind of Oogie Boogie inspired, where you end up on their gambling kind of thing. So it's because each boss represents not only what pollution the area is affecting, but what's embodied in that area. So just say we have a mining area that's kind of underground. So I was like, well, with this boss, is he obsessed with gold? I was like, okay, so he's covered himself in gold. He's just he was a good guy, but now he's so obsessed with gold that he's
all
just
gold.
covered himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, so he's so obsessed, he's so greedy. What's a kind of flaw in being so greedy? And it's you just want more. So it's like, okay, maybe the gambling thing would be a cool way to make the him more interesting, him more flawed, and then we have a cool environment. So right now I'm concepting up this kind of cool environment where you're facing off with someone who's gambling your life. And yeah, so I the elements of that is really cool. And I think the character itself is not there was a long revision process where it's going to be kind of more of a mob boss, but they've gone to more of a flamboyant kind of more kind of like Jeff Goldblum in Thor 3, where he's like really eccentric. So more of that. So I'm really like excited exploring different personalities and seeing, how far we can kind of push them to make them interesting. And I can't show anything yet because it's still going through revisions and we're still trying to figure out how the environments work. But yeah, we're trying to do some interesting things with bosses. And I just like, I think we've mentioned it in passing, but with boss battles, um, with the way the arena works is each boss has a moment where they do a boss wrath.
Okay.
So they'll like stop and then they'll charge up. And if you don't stop it before it happens, it escalates the environment. So it makes the environment
Oh,
more
okay.
difficult.
Okay. Okay.
So like just for instance, maybe like, there's some grinders that like start going across the floor. So then what happens is you have this meter that goes up. You're like, okay, so the environment's more toxic now. And so every time the boss does the wrath move, you have to go in and recycle him to like, or recycle them, I should say, to push the toxicity back down. So not only are you trying to kill the boss, but you're just trying to stop the environment being the most toxic it could
Wow.
be.
Okay. Love
Um,
that. Love
so
that.
this, yeah. So that's the really cool thing about our boss battles. I really wanted to challenge the kind of standard norms and be like, well, what else can we do here that kind of relates to the environment? I was like, well, it'd be cool if the boss is like, trying to just like get you out of there, but he's also like up, they're also up like trying to like, upgrade the environment to make it harder for you. So I was like, yeah, and then you have the ability to bring that back down as well. So it's like, how do we? Because the player naturally pushes out as they keep throwing the shield. So how do we push the player back in? And that's kind of the way we do it with the recycling. We're kind of trying to push the player back in to get like them bonuses and stuff.
I see.
Um, yeah, and then the other cool thing about the bosses, it's like a twofold thing. Is like once you defeat them, you get the opportunity whether you can trash them or you can recycle them, and each will have a pro and con. Um, but depending on what you choose, a new flower will grow throughout the world. Um, so if you choose the good path, you'll probably get less, but a nice flower will grow, and it might give you a perk. Like now, you can get a little bit of health. If whack the flower. But if you trash the boss, it like just like leaves a toxic trail, and then these toxic plants will grow. But you might get a benefit from that. Like you might get some more health, but you've allowed this toxic plant to grow in the world now, and it won't be nice for you. Like it won't be good for you at all. Maybe it spits out like bombs at you now, and now like you go back to a place, and now you have to deal with that. So um we're just trying to figure out like how to give the players enough incentive, to pick good or bad
I see.
at the moment. Yeah, but like it's just trying to reinforce that your effort makes a difference in the world, and your hard choices you'll actually see a thing because like the one thing I get annoyed about in games is like you only see your kind of effort fold out at the end of the game.
True.
So it's like, save these amount of things, and then at the end of the game, you get the good ending. I was like, it'd be cool to kind of see your choices play out, as you're playing the game. So
I
you're
see.
like, well, yeah, I've chosen this, and Bioshock kind of does it as well a little bit. When you save the little sisters, or yeah, the little
In
sisters.
Bioshock?
Uh, yeah, Bioshock. You can either get less points, but you save them, or you can just absorb them completely and get more. Kind of like, is it Eve? I
Adam?
speed someone.
Adam? Adam. Adam.
Adam.
Adam. Yeah, the
Yeah,
final.
Adam, and then you can spend more points on your power. So there's
Yeah.
like a moral thing where you can get that short-term gain in
True, true, true.
for a bad ending. Yeah, so I kind of do like that. But yeah, like I just wanted to see, you've chosen this kind of result. This boss has a huge impact on the world, and you get to make that choice where you can kind of see that actions and then deal with that action, and that kind of like folds back into the environment. So just to make it like, yeah, it just feel like you're living through something you're interacting with and immersed in. So that's kind of where we're going. Like we really want to make an environment where it's kind of like changing in these small tiny ways, and you feel like alive, and you're kind of like making you have like that influence on it, in that kind of way.
I
Yeah.
see. Thank you for that. And I love the fact that you made like so many unique things put into your game. It's very nice to hear that.
We kind of found that like there's a sweet spot where it's like, you can kind of find you're like, oh, this has been done a certain way for a while. And it's like, well, what can we do to just make it a little bit more interesting
True, true,
without,
true, true,
you
true.
know, yeah, changing it too much. And we kind of found a way to kind of do that in bits and pieces. Yeah.
I
But yeah,
love
I'm
that.
very excited. It will need a
Me
lot of
too, me
testing.
too, me too, me too. Yeah. Let me know when we can play it. By the way, what's the release date goal for your game?
2026.
Okay,
Uh,
that's a lot
yeah,
still to wait, but
yeah. Like I said, like it's at the moment it's just me and sometimes a few others. So like it's at a good stage where it's just going through now. We're kind of like just churning through the bits and pieces. But it's like I don't want to rush it.
true, true,
I'll
true,
probably
understandable. Yeah.
yeah. It's like it's gonna take as long as it needs to take. Unfortunately, I wish if something changes, like I'll be going as fast as I can. But that kind of seems like the
No,
realistic
take your
timeline.
time, in my opinion. Take your time and yeah, make
Yeah,
your visions come
yeah,
true. I love that. I love that.
yeah,
All the unique things that you have mentioned, they are awesome. I especially love the fact that you mentioned that bosses will show up with their motivation why they are doing those bad and toxic stuff in your game. I love that. It's
yeah,
rare
yeah.
nowadays that stories, especially for all the bosses have motivations. It's rare.
Yeah, I mean, like this depends on like how far we can stretch things. Because I was like, I really wanted to create a world where people like can enjoy the story and there's lore like here and there, and you get to know the kind of major players, even if they're only there for a short while. It just makes the kind of world feel more dense. Like
True,
you're
true,
doing
true,
things for a reason. You know what your
true, true,
motivations are. Yeah, you know why they're doing that thing over there.
true,
Like
true, true.
yeah. So yeah, it's very enjoyable to make that stuff and make the little
Nice.
stories and yeah.
And what's the goal with the length of your game? Like, how many hours are you aiming for with the length of
I want to
your
aim
your game?
for. I'm trying to aim for 25. I'm trying not to make it too grindy.
Nice.
Like you just like I think Bioshock comes to mind as well because like I don't feel like I ever grinded in that game. It was just a shorter experience, but it was just like you just went through every level and it's just like if you want to collect everything they'll add another 10 hours maybe 5 to 10 hours, but
Yeah, but it
I
was
think at
still a
this
long
stage.
game, right? Because it had a
Yeah,
rich story and also like the environmental storytelling, yeah, like your game has. So it's
yeah,
very nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think if I'm realistic, I'd want to try to focus on maybe like bring like the fun quality rather than grinding the length. So I don't know how people feel about that, but like there'll be sections where maybe there's an arena where you can do like endless fighting, that kind of things. There'll be more collection things. So there'll definitely be things there to do. But like I guess I'll have to see, but it'll be quality over length.
True. True. True.
Uh,
Understandable. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Do you think, by the way, it will be also like another personal question? Do you think like you found yourself by making Junklands? Like you're
Yes.
really now at that spot of your life when you found yourself and you get back to your inner child.
Yeah, I think with this, I with making junk plans, I figured out the kind of games I just want to make going forward. So I have another two games that will follow the kind of I would say the rules, but the kind of like the philosophy. That's the word. The philosophy of how we would approach games and how
I
we
see.
would do it. So yeah, I think Junklands, sitting there prototyping and thinking about it for a longer while really helped us kind of figure out, hey, we can make games in this kind of way where instead of making open world games, let's make games a little bit more interactive, or like you might change something over there and it impacts kind of the environment more. So like I think for us it's about making things a little bit more interactive now rather than bigger, and seeing what we can do with that and how we can use just a limited amount of resources to really make something more interactive. But it'll take experimenting. Like that's
True,
the thing.
true,
You never
true,
know.
true, true. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can only say that and hope it turns out well. So that
I'm sure
that's
it
what judgment
will.
is.
Like so far, you
Yeah.
mentioned so many unique ideas that I'm shocked that you have put all these ideas together with this cool setting and this very deep
Yeah.
emotional based story as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
love it.
we'll see how it goes. You know, fingers crossed.
I cannot wait to play the game, the full game.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
know if there
There's
is
still
like an early access test
yeah,
server or anything.
definitely.
I would like to try it
Yeah.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I'm being a perfectionist, so it'll be a while before anyone sees anything.
Okay. Let me know.
So, but
Let me know
I'll
about
put
that.
out. Yeah.
Are you down,
Yeah.
by the way,
But yeah.
to answer some questions from my community as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice, nice,
Totally.
nice,
Yeah.
nice, nice. Thank you. Okay, so let us know if there is any question, hölgyek, urak, hogyha bármi kérdés van, nyugodtan kérdezzetek. Let us know if there is any question. Let me know, let us know. Hölgyek, urak, bármi kérdés? Bármi kérdés? A legelső negatív visszacsatolást hogy élte meg, hogy tudta azt feldolgozni még kezdőként? Okay, so Minnie is asking that your very first negative opinion that you get from a player, how could you describe those feelings that you had back then at the very first negative opinion that you read at your very first game? And also, like, how could you go through that feeling of yours?
All right. So it actually wasn't from a player. It was from a reviewer,
Okay.
and I'll just say from a reviewer because the it was so negative. Like it wasn't. It was just. It was kind of like the headline was just. I've never even seen a head like this before, but it was just like this game is boring, and I was like heartbroken because I was like it was the first review I saw, and I was just like it was just it definitely
I don't
like you
understand
put out
people like
any
this. Sorry for saying that, but I don't understand people
yeah
like this who are making these articles. I'm always saying this that I feel like I know I might be wrong about it, but I'm sure that I'm not. But I feel like games and movies and books should be reviewed just like we reviewed poems in schools. Like we never gave scores for poems or books at schools, right? We never said that I don't know this author of that poem was a dickhead and he wrote a very bad poem. Like we wasn't saying these things, right? But we do say about games like what the hell? Like why we are not
yeah
willing to analyze these things? Like we would have to as a reviewer we had to analyze these things and show what you're capable of as a player in that game so others might pick up or might not if they don't like it. But if you will say that okay, like you just said, the headline is like it's a boring game, the closed minded people who follow that website will say okay, it's a boring game, I won't try it out. Like
yeah
why are you doing this to
yeah
people, right? So
well
it's crazy to me. It's still crazy to me to hear those
yeah
things.
so yeah I was heartbroken. That was the first thing I saw. I saw a few more things, and like I was okay with the critiques, and I wasn't disillusioned. I was like, yeah, they've said what I thought was, they said it was polished, the characters were cool, but it needed to do something new, and I was okay with those critiques. But funny enough, on that first review, someone in the comments actually said, "Why is this review so nasty?" So
Yeah,
someone actually told me, that bad review. Someone in the comments actually just
defended you.
called that review
Yeah.
out. So that made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, I was a little bit heartbroken. But um, like yeah, that was probably the worst thing I've ever seen. I would if I saw someone else doing it, I would probably be shocked and write a comment too, just because I was like, oh, that's not great.
True, true,
But
true.
but yeah, like I feel like it's a trial by fire. Like, do people ever get over critiques? Like, or do you just become hardened from it? It'll still hurt. Like, I try to focus on all the good comments because like the bad comments, if they don't have any critiques in them, then they're just worth ignoring, and it's hard to do.
True,
But yeah, I
true.
definitely say that it
Yeah,
was
but it's
heartbreaking.
still hard, right? Because we
Yeah,
as humans
yeah,
are emotional beings, so it's like
yeah,
hard to just go through and saying, "Okay, I don't care." You will care at some point, and what
yeah,
I was talking about earlier. That I feel like people should have been responsible for their harsh opinions. Like it's like no one is judging those people who are making these harsh critiques about like for example games, and it's bad because like I said, people can end up in a way when I don't know, some developer, I know it's very crazy to say, but it happened in the video game industry, so it might end up being a video game developer being very depressed or even like kill herself or himself. And people
yeah,
don't get it that okay, your article or your very negative and harsh opinion on an emotional level might could end up causing that effect that that person might hurt himself or herself. And people, that's what people don't realize, that it's not that those people who are getting these critiques they should be that like emotional. They should, because we are all our rights. It's our right.
yeah,
You should
exactly. Yeah,
not you should not comfort our emotional level just because you're a dickhead at the end of your day and you have a bad life. Like, and that's what you said is very true as well. And I also say that on my streams, that I feel like the real problem with this society and also human beings in it is that people are willing to put their like inner self with their very bad life situations when they're like giving opinions about something, even if it's a person, even if it's a game, it's a movie, and rather realizing that okay, I should take a break and to focus on myself and like realizing what's the problem and solve it. They rather sit down playing games and say that the game is bad. Like why? Why?
yeah, yeah,
Why?
yeah.
And I hate
I
that.
mean, like, yeah. In that sort of situation, it was upsetting, and I probably would have. The only thing I probably would have said to that person was like maybe a little bit more like back up your critiques
True, exactly,
rather than just
exactly,
making it. Because I was like, is
exactly,
this clickbait? Like, yeah, like, is
exactly,
this clickbait? Are you just trying to get
exactly.
clicks? Because outrage is kind of the new
True,
monetization,
exactly. The cancel culture, yeah.
yeah,
What people,
yeah,
what they it helped them grow, but it's stupid. Like it makes people even more angry for no reason, right? Like it doesn't
yeah,
seem right to me at all. Yeah,
no, yeah. So yeah, to answer that question, yeah, it I mean, like anyone, it would hurt. It did hurt,
I see.
but I kind of like, well, it wasn't. I couldn't take it seriously, at the end of the day because it had the critiques didn't back up that
True,
level of
true,
kind of rhetoric that it was.
true,
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Mm.
Thank you for the question and the answer, by the way. Thank you for
Yeah, good
both
question.
of you. Thank you. Okay, any more questions? Bármilyen más kérdés, hölgyek, urak? Nyugodtan írjatok, nyugodtan kérdezzetek. Let us know, let us know. Any more questions? Any more questions? I still have one, by the way, before anyone would ask any questions. So, what was the goal or the aim for the difficulty setting of your game? Because you were talking about that you would like to have these segments when it feels like hard and old schoolish for the games
Yeah,
that you were growing up on and with. So, were you aiming for a bit of a harder game with Junklands? Am I correct
yeah.
about
I think
that?
yeah. So the sort of philosophy here is easy to play, hard to master. Um, so it's kind of easy to throw out your shield because it kind of soft locks on the enemy, so you can just look at them with the camera and throw it. So you'll
I
be able
see.
to like do it, but to thrive, through these kind of situations, it's kind of like it's like a player's self challenge to do better, with all these kind of moves. But will be adding difficulty settings because I believe in accessibility. So I do want to offer, an easy, medium, and hard just to kind of cater. I do think it because I like, sometimes it'll be like 10 o'clock at night. I just I like something like Cuphead. Like I just don't have time to die over and over again, and I never got to the end of Cuphead. I'll go back and play it one day when I have like a good few hours to die over and over. But just I do believe like I want like at some point you want to be able to enjoy the game, and I didn't want to gate people out of it being able to enjoy the game if it's too hard, especially like the way it kind of feels and looks. Like, you know, I'd be worried to alienate a potential like certain player who's like, I really like this idea, you know, I really enjoy the kind of world I'm in. And I was like, well, no, you can't play it because you're not good enough.
I see.
Or, you know, you haven't died enough times. Good enough's not the right word, I think. It's just like you haven't um played it enough times to like
Or
get that,
understood it,
you
yeah,
know,
or
if you're
understand it,
a
yeah.
skill. Yeah. And sometimes it's not even skill. It's like you just get lucky in that little
True,
moment.
true, true, true,
You
true.
know, that's like the feeling of Cuphead. It's like, oh, a shot just in that little
The
moment that I was able to get
RNG, the
through that.
RNG factor, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like, yeah. Sometimes like I just don't want to stare at a black screen, and I wouldn't want to do that to
True,
people as
true,
well.
true.
So I was like, given the way that the game kind of feels and presents itself, and I feel like there's a wavelength, you know, that people can play it in.
True, true.
And that's not me making a game for everyone. It's kind of just like, well, this is the game. You can play it as it is. I can make it like a little bit easier for you. Or if you really want to like struggle at this game, I can make it really harder for
Hard for
you.
you, yeah.
So that's the kind of philosophy. I was like, you know, like this is the way the game's supposed to be made, but I'm giving you the option to play it, you know, with a bit more like a bit more of a buffer, I would say. And then, you know, and with hard, it's like you know, maybe you played it through and you want to, you know, just, you know, be dominated or like really challenge yourself. So that's the kind of way I say it's like being able to pick the level of challenge that you want is essentially what it is.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, any more questions? Let us know. Can you think of, by the way, any other topic that we haven't touched and you would like to talk about? Because I have a final closing question, but before that, if you have anything to say that we haven't
Um,
touched.
yeah. What was your favorite games growing up? I'll
Uh,
ask you. What was your
like
favorite
like I
games?
mentioned before, if you remember that Final Fantasy
Yeah,
X was one of my favorite games. It's in fact it's
yeah,
my favorite game of all time.
yeah,
A quick story for that because you were honest with me and I appreciate your honesty about the story of your mother. I will be very honest with you as well. So my grandfather
yeah,
passed away when I was 12, and since then I'm replaying Final Fantasy X till the end of the game, but I'm never finishing at that game. So I get to the point where I could defeat Sin, but I'm never like defeating him, and I just
yeah.
delete my save and replaying it every year. So
Oh, wow.
it's because like he wasn't like into video games. He was always there for me, supporting my like childhood passion about video games, and sometimes he sit down with me and play video games. I remember this one memory of mine when I could not like jump on the ledges from here and there at the Sand of Time, Prince of Persia Sand of Time, and I was very stressed, and I was like, I had to try this again and again and again, and it was like, I don't know, 20 or 50 times, and he just sat
Yeah,
down to me, to my right side, picked up the controller, the PlayStation 2, did it for the first time, and I was like shocked, my grand, oh, this moment of enjoyment, finally continue my story in the game. So yeah, I feel
that's
like
awesome.
I
That's
feel like
yeah,
like a big influence of me having my childhood in a very good way. Like I had a very childhood, which I feel like it's very rare. Family background and a loving background. It became so much important to me as a player. I always saying this that I'm trying out a very rare dinosaur who is still enjoying games, just a hobby for me, but a very great passion. Just games all the time. It happens to me, like even shower or I am going something very not game oriented about games. Like my mind is around games, and it's like it's
yeah.
passion, right? So
Yeah, that's really lovely. Yeah, it's just like these memories we have
true, true, true,
that we
true.
kind of go back. And yeah, it's kind of nice that we can kind of do games and stuff. Yeah,
True, true.
yeah. I was Crash
Yeah,
Bandicoot
here,
as
yeah, yeah, yeah,
well.
here, yeah, yeah. That I enjoyed. I loved Telltale Walking Dead. I loved the Last of Us series. Also, I loved Uncharted, my very first multiplayer on console ever. So many Hungarian and also English speakers who are still like very good friends of mine. There are like Destroy All Humans series. That was a very
Oh,
fun
yeah,
experience with a very and funny story. So yeah, there
yeah,
were. I loved SS6, although I wasn't like snowboard. I loved SS6 games as I
yeah,
loved DJ Hero and DJ Hero games as well. I
yeah,
could I could
yeah,
name games like for entire my life. Sitting here like
yeah,
listing all the games that I played, but yeah, yeah,
yeah.
there are a
Yeah.
lot of great games.
What are you playing at the moment?
At the moment, I'm playing a lot of games. To be honest, I'm playing all the games that I'm talking about or talking to developers. Or talk to developers. So, for example, I played Earl versus the Mutants. I played Self Loss. Actually, by the
Oh,
way, it was my very first project of making the Hungarian localization for Self Loss. I
oh,
was very
cool.
happy
Yeah,
with that. So yeah, I also play like multiplayer games. I play finals. I'm very invested in multiverses because I was playing at the open beta state of multiverses. I was playing like on a tournament based level because
yeah.
I love
Who's your
completing.
character? Sorry,
Superman,
sorry. Who's your
Superman.
character?
I'm Superman mate. Although I
Oh,
don't love Superman that much, I'm more of a Batman person.
yeah,
But somehow I felt
yeah,
like on the gameplay aspect and side, it worked out the best for me as playing with Superman. So I
yeah,
mastered him and now like in the top spot of European players, and I love that. I'm always like playing with him and trying to like figure out new tactics to beat my opponents. So yeah,
yeah,
so yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm really good with Jason, but
Nice.
yeah,
We
I
should
was
play
going
together
on. It was
sometime.
really
Let me
funny.
know. Let me know if you're up, and we should
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, totally. I was when I first started, I was just killing everyone, winning every game with the banana guard. I was like, how am I doing this? I was just killing everyone with the banana guard. I was like, I thought that was supposed to be just like a basic character, but I was like,
Yeah.
I know what he's doing. Like, just,
Yeah,
I was like,
he's a
even this,
very big reach on the side special side
yeah,
events. Yeah,
yeah. I was
yeah,
like, what's going on? I was like, there's Arya Stark in here. I'm like winning games against all the paid
yeah,
characters.
yeah.
I just got
Exactly,
this freebie. I was like, what's going on?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to jump in and play as Beetlejuice at some stage, or yeah,
Oh yeah, he's a
you
great
know,
character, by the way. He's hard to
yeah,
master, in my opinion, but he has very
yeah,
great moves that you can connect with and make it into a bigger combo state. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, nice, yeah, cool.
Nice, 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 nice. Okay, so if there isn't any more questions from my community, I would have like a closing question. So it will be a more personal question. So since my favorite color is green, and I saw that the little sphere that you were talking about, that the symbol of your mother as well in your game is also green. So is that like a favorite color of yours or mother's, or how? Why is the color green that you're using for that sphere?
Um, I don't have a great answer because my
Okay,
mother's favorite color was blue,
okay,
but it just happened. Yeah,
okay,
but it's like yeah, so it's just like green is nature, and
okay.
it just it's just like yeah, um just this kind of green is like what I wanted to represent, the nature and like the soul. So it's like green has a lot of a good application like applicants that you can put it to. It's like the soul,
True, 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 true,
nature, you know growth,
true,
like
true, true, true. Yeah,
positivity, like so that's where the kind of green color sits
love it,
for
love it.
me.
Nice, nice,
Yeah.
nice, nice. Love it, love it.
So yeah, I'm
Okay.
glad you like the color green. It makes sense. You seem like a positive person, so I totally get that. Yellow's also positive, but
Thank you, my
you know
friend.
what?
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm trying to best in this word, in this very toxic
yeah,
word to stay positive. But yeah, yeah. Thanks to
yeah,
you, like people like you who are also positive, I feel like it's still like, you know, an opportunity for us to change the bird for the better. So I believe in that. I believe in
Yeah,
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
So I will need some of your minutes, but I will turn down the stream here. So for those who were watching our interview, thank you for everyone who watched our interview, even if we'll be watching back as a VOD or an edited version on YouTube, or you watched it live. And yeah, Josh, thank you for being here.
No
It was an
worries.
honor, and I
Pleasure to be.
hope that you had a great time with us. And yeah, for those who were watching us, thank you and have a great day or night, depending where you live. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. And don't forget to wishlist the game. Please
Yes.
do
Yeah,
that.
please.